What is up, guys? Londrick here, and now back with Rebooking Wrestlemania 25. So the Rebooking series continues. We're going to do another one today. Just before we continue, just want to say history of wrestling 1999 Q&A. Probably going to do next week because obviously I had issues doing it the first time. I've got 3 days off in a row next week, so I'm probably going to do it then. And channels getting there. We're up to now 1988, so just 12 away from the big 2K. So I'm hoping to get to 2K by the end of next week. Then obviously after that I'll do my shout out videos. And I've got the WWE versus New Japan card done. I've separated it into two nights. I've booked the winners and losers. So I'm going to present that card once I get to 2K. So that's an incentive to try and get me to 2K. Nearly there, guys. I can taste it. But to get back to the main event, it's Rebooking Wrestlemania 25. Not the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania WWE, like I say it was. But this, of course, this is probably a really disappointing WrestleMania. Often criticised WrestleMania. I don't think it was one of the absolute worst WrestleManias. But definitely wasn't a good WrestleMania. So let's go over the real card. Of course, the main event for the WWE Championship, Triple H versus Randy Orton. For the World Heavyweight Championship, Edge versus John Cena versus The Big Show. Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels. Chris Jericho versus Ricky Steamboat, Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka. Money in the Bank ladder match. Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy, Extreme Rules. And Rey Mysterio versus JBL for the Intercontinental Title, and I think that that shitty Divas Battle Royal, but we don't need to worry about that match in this review, do we really? So yeah, let's get to it. First match, of course, like in real life, a Money in the Bank ladder match with participants CM Punk, Kane, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Kofi Kingston, but in my Money in the Bank, removed the Christian, Mark Henry and Finlay to be replaced by the Big Show replacing Mark Henry, because I don't have the Big Show in the world title match, and I didn't have another match for him, so I put him in Money in the Bank, and of course obviously after that he competed in a couple of Money in the Bank ladder matches later on. Replacing Christian is Matt Hardy, which that's probably a spoiler for one of the matches later on, but we'll explain that later on. And then if I'll just take Finlay out to put a younger guy in there, so Finlay out to put in Ted DiBiase, because I thought it would have been a cool dynamic to have one of the Legacy members in there, because I mean, like, Rose and DiBiase were definitely two of the biggest glaring misses for that but I just don't feel like Finlay needed to be in there. I mean, Finlay was pushing 50 at the time, and yeah, it just really didn't need to be in this match at all. So yeah, obviously everything else about the match is the same. I'm sure the match would be at least similar quality. Obviously, Kane and Big Show, the monsters, Kofi Kingston, the young guy, Matt Hardy, the Money in the Bank ladder match veteran. And just like in real life, going to keep the winner the same. CM Punk's going to win this one to win his second Money in the Bank ladder match. Because obviously, at the time, I think a lot of people criticised this decision. But it actually turned out to be brilliant, because it let CM Punk turn a heel on Jeff Hardy. And then led to the epic CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy rivalry, which was one of the best feuds of this last 10 years, I would say. For me, maybe even my favourite feud of the PG era. Who knows? But yeah, so CM Punk to win the Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, match number 2 is a match that should have been on the main card, but it wasn't. And that for the Unified Tag Team titles, John Morrison and The Miz versus the Colognes, Carlito and Primo. Now, for this to work, scrap that Kid Rock concert. You know the Kid Rock concert that went like about 10 minutes? It just ate up so much fucking time, and particularly scrapping that shitty Divas match. I mean, don't remember, guys. This was 2009. This is before women's wrestling was respected like it is now. So, yep, for this WrestleMania, there's going to be no women's matches. Just fuck I know, just throw a random women's match on the fucking kickoff show or whatever. It might have even been Sunday Night Heat back then, I can't remember. But yeah, obviously this is one of the matches I was looking forward to for WrestleMania. Obviously, I mean, like John Morrison and The Miz did an awesome job in 2007, 2008. And I think this is where The Miz really started improving as a worker, being paired with Morrison. I mean, these kids had personality and all that. And how crazy is it at the time, though? I think at the time we were all thinking Morrison was going to go on to be the star, and Miz would just be some mid-carder, but worked out completely different because by WrestleMania 27, The Miz was a WWE champion in the main event of WrestleMania, and John Morrison disappeared in 2011 and hasn't come back, and The Miz obviously has gone on to be one of the all-time great Intercontinental champions. Just funny how things work out. But yeah, anyway, give this match 10-12 minutes. I'm sure it'll be a good match. Maybe even a potential WrestleMania gem. And I'll keep the result as it was in real life. Carlito and Primo beat The Miz and Morrison to retain the tag team titles, because obviously Miz and Morrison split up in the 2009 draft, which I definitely think is a right move, because I think Morrison had a good face run on SmackDown. And The Miz really got himself over on Raw as a heel. So yeah, match number 3, Chris Jericho versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat of Ric Flair in his corner. So I'll say basically keep the storyline the same, with Mickey Rourke and all that, and Jericho bashing all the legends of the past. But just keep Piper and Snooker out this. I mean, Snooker looked pretty awful in this match. I mean, he was like in his mid-60s at the time. Piper looked a bit bare, but the real star of the match was Ricky Steamboat. And I do understand why WWE didn't book Jericho Steamboat in a singles match. Probably because they didn't know how good Ricky Steamboat was, but of course, as we saw, he turned out pretty damn good. And then they had a pretty damn good match at Backlash, so yeah, basically that. Just keep the match as it was. Just take Piper and Snooker out, and have a Jericho and Steamboat one-on-one, because that Steamboat performance was one of the highlights of this WrestleMania, and I think it would have been awesome for him and Jericho. Just have a singles. It doesn't have to go too long. Doesn't really have to go longer than 15 minutes. I think if they went for like a 20-25 minute match, it probably would have exposed Steamboat a little bit. So this match would have played to Steamboat's strengths. And of course, obviously, Jericho has to go over, because it would be kind of stupid for Steamboat to win, wouldn't it, really? I will say Ricky Steamboat's mini 2009 comeback's probably one of my favourite comebacks in the last few years. I think it was awesome. And it's really sad a brain injury in 2010 stopped him from having any more little mini comes back. That would have been cool, wouldn't it, to see a little bit more of Ricky Steamboat, I think, anyway. But yeah, obviously, so Jericho goes over Steamboat in about 14 minutes or something like that. Whole post-match with Mickey Rourke can be the same and all that, because why not? It wasn't that bad, really. And obviously, Mickey Rourke was a fairly big deal at the time because of the publicity of the wrestler and whatnot. Match number 4, we're going to have, obviously... Now, this is obviously similar to what happened in real life, but the match that they should have done, but they didn't. And that's Extreme Rules, Jeff Hardy versus Christian. I mean, I could blab on about this for a long time, but I'm not going to. So, of course, Christian re-signed with the WWE in late 2008 after 3 years away in TNA. And obviously the speculations what Christian was going to do. And at the same time, they were doing the whole mystery attacker for Jeff Hardy. And it was presumed that was going to be Christian. And by all accounts, it was supposed to be Christian to make his return at Royal Rumble 2009 and cost Jeff Hardy the WWE title. But the rumour and innuendo is that there was apparently Vince McMahon who changed his mind. This is what, obviously this could be bollocks, but this is the rumour and innuendo that Vince thought too many people knew that Christian was coming back, so at the last minute changed his mind and had Matt Hardy turn against Jeff Hardy. Then obviously after that, Christian went to ECW. While he had a pretty good run on that brand, I feel like a guy that was over as Christian should have been on one of the big shows, having a big feud, and not Paul White on Raw SmackDown, when I say big shows. So obviously, basically, do what they should have done in real life. Christian reveals the attack of Jeff Hardy. Christian was working for Edge the whole time. And then obviously the rivalry gets a bit more personal and all that. Then you can build a personal rivalry from there between the two. Use the past with the highs and Edge and Christian. Maybe Christian's jealous. Jeff Hardy got all these opportunities to be successful while he had to leave the WWE to make a success of himself. And now he's coming back to reclaim his right to be a star in the WWE. And he's going to have to go through Jeff Hardy. And I feel like the chemistry would have been better as well, because I just don't think fans really bought the Matt and Jeff feud and all that. It just wasn't very good, was it? It wasn't terrible, but I mean, ironically, I don't think Matt and Jeff really worked well as opponents until TNA in 2016, surprisingly enough. And I feel like this match on the whole would be better than Jeff versus Matt. I really do. I'm just going to have a drink. Just give me a second. I'm just drinking my tea because I'm British and that's what we do. Don't have any crumpets or just a cup of tea. But anyway, So, have the match. Give it a similar time to Jeff and Matt. But I feel like this match would have been better than Jeff versus Matt. Probably not by a ton, but I think it'd be a better match overall. And obviously, since Matt went over in real life in my rebooking, it just makes all the sense in the world for Christian to go over. Because why not? I've got no problem with that at all. Then obviously Jeff could have chased Christian after that. Like obviously they did the stretcher match with Matt and Jeff. Then he could have had an I Quit match at Backlash, just like in real life type thing. So Christian to defeat Jeff Hardy. Then match number... Where are we at? Number 5. Rey Mysterio, JBL for the Intercontinental Title. Just keep this the same. Got no real problem with this. This match was fine how it was. And I have to keep the squash aspect of it as well, because I think it was a nice surprise. And a great way to put Rey Mysterio over as Intercontinental Champion. So got no problems with that at all. Rey Mysterio can defeat JBL in 21 seconds, I believe it was. I could be wrong on the exact number, but it was around that. To win the Intercontinental title, just keep that the same. And then obviously got match number 6. Obviously you can't change this one. I mean, if you change this match, and what the hell was WrestleMania 25? Obviously Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, keep that the same. I mean, there's absolutely zero reason to change that at all. No. I mean, if anyone rebooks this show and doesn't have this match, I'm going to think they're pretty strange people. I mean, this, of course, one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history, one of the best matches in WWE history, and I'll say probably the match that, like, the classic match for more modern fans, so, like, people like 16, 17 to 20, this is probably the match that their group loving. And I loved it as well, but of course, obviously, I'm from a prior generation, so I would say, but obviously, I've got no, and obviously, I want to keep this placement on the card as well. I mean, a lot of people say it should have main event, which is fine. I get that. I mean, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with Triple H, Randy Orton main event, because obviously in the build-up, this was built up like a much bigger match. Of course, it's just it didn't deliver. That's all. I mean, if you remember the build-up of Shawn and Taker for WrestleMania 25, the build wasn't that special. I mean, certainly nothing like the WrestleMania 26 build-up. Just storylines more or less the same, placement on the card the same, all those awesome entrances, give them the same 30 minutes, have the same match. I mean, this is, by any reasonable standard, probably top 5 WrestleMania matches ever in there. I mean, it's not my number 1. I would probably, obviously, have a Bret and Austin over that. Probably Bret and Owen over that. Probably Shawn and Razor over that. Probably even Austin Rock from 17 over that. So, top 5 for me. But a lot of people have it as number 1, and for good reason. It was amazing. So then, obviously Taker goes over. Goes to 17-0. Let's move on. So after that, We're going to have a little quick warm-down match, because I think one of the biggest mistakes he did for WrestleMania 25 is he had this match, and then they jumped right into the 2 world title matches. So, for my WrestleMania card, I'm going to try and remedy that with a little warm-down match, and that is for the ECW Championship, which that brand was conspicuous by its absence at this WrestleMania. I mean, they had Christian in the Money in the Bank. I think Mark Henry was on ECW as well, actually. And maybe even Shelton. No, actually, I think maybe Shelton was back on SmackDown at the time. But yeah, no, like, ECW brand match. I mean, WrestleMania 23, you had the ECW Originals versus the ECW New Breed. In WrestleMania 24, you had Kane Squash Chavo Guerrero. So for mine, we're going to have ECW Champion Jack Swagger versus Evan Bourne. Just feel obviously Evan Bourne, it's pretty much a basic match. You know, Swagger the big guy, Evan Bourne the smaller underdog. I did like Evan Bourne's run in ECW for the most part. But I made a comment on the Fatal 4. Maybe Evan Bourne came into WWE too early. Maybe a guy like Evan Bourne would be more successful in WWE now, when it's much more indie friendly and all that than it was then. And obviously, at the time, Jack Swagger seemed like a can't miss prospect. I mean, he had the size, he had the athletic ability, he had the look. Obviously, even when he was young, he was still a pretty good wrestler. Only problem is he wasn't really good talker, but obviously they did kind of remedy that later on when they put him with Zeb Coulter. And yeah, at the time when Jack Swagger came at his fort, I think he was like 26 as well. This guy could be one of the future guys in WWE. And it just didn't pan out like that at all, did it? I mean, granted he had a world title reign, but that was maybe one of the worst world title reigns in WWE history. But we'll not get into that. So yeah, obviously just a basic storyline. Evan Bourne becomes the number 1 contender, goes for Jack Swagger. Maybe Jack Swagger can laugh it off, saying, what's this little guy gonna do against me? I'm an all-American American. So this match doesn't need to go more than 5 minutes, because like I say, its job is to warm down the crowd to get them ready for the main event. But yeah, just have a nice little basic match, 5 minutes. Jack Swagger can defeat Evan Bourne to retain the ECW title. Then of course from there you can go into Swagger and Christian for Backlash, which is what happened in real life. So yeah, what have we got after that? Okay, right now 2 main events now but the first one for the World Heavyweight title, John Cena versus Randy Orton. So obviously this was early 2009, so this was before Cena Orton boo. So the Cena Orton feud wasn't still yet. It wasn't until it's really concluded in 2009, like later on that year, the people were sick of it, and then obviously times they brought it back in 2013, and I remember Royal Rumble 2014. You probably don't because it was awful, but so yeah, but enough. Obviously they were both on Raw at the time, because obviously they're going to be confused, because at the time like Triple H was a WWE champion, but he was a SmackDown guy, but he was hardly ever on SmackDown because he was on Raw most of the time. And then Orton was a Raw guy, challenged for a SmackDown title, and of course, similar situation. Edge was a SmackDown guy holding Raw's world title. I can't even remember what brand the Big Show. I think Big Show might have been on SmackDown as well, and obviously Cena, Raw's top guy, challenging SmackDown's champion. So this is the time where they would really, it was kind of like, yeah, just whatever, fuck the brand split, who gives a shit, that's what they were doing. So I'm going to let this match be the focus of Raw, really. So obviously Orton becomes the number 1 contender by winning the Royal Rumble. I'm going to keep that the same, because I did really like that one. For Orton winning the 2009 Royal Rumble was the right call. And yeah, I just feel like this feud would have been better. Well, actually, maybe not as much, loads better, but I've got a much better idea for Triple H. A match with Triple H I really wanted to do. So you put Orton and Cena together and see how it goes. I mean, obviously, not sure what you could do for a big storyline. Just have them feud, because Cena's a top face, Orton's a top heel. Obviously, legacy. They're on Orton's side against Cena. Maybe you can even have Cena align himself with Crime Time again. to combat Legacy. Do a couple of 6-man tags on Raw, Legacy versus Orton, Cena and Crime Time. I think you definitely have Orton pin Cena at least once in these 6-man tag matches to build Orton up as a credible threat. Then maybe you can get to the point where Legacy interfere too much, meaning that Cena and Orton have to, the Legacy are not allowed at ringside and all that, and you get Cena Orton, the match should be at least alright. I mean, despite the fact he wrestled 1,000 times, and yeah, some of the matches were, they did have a few good ones in there. I mean, most notably SummerSlam 2007, I thought it was awesome. What a great match. The I Quit match at Breaking Point I really enjoyed. The Iron Man match at Bragging Rights I really enjoyed. I even thought the Hell in a Cell match was pretty good but not fantastic. So I think this probably would have been about 3.5, 3.25 star match as a prediction of what I think the match would be like. And then you have maybe there's a distraction. Orton hit a low blow on Cena, hit the RKO on the world title, and then Randy Orton can cheat his way to beating Cena to become the new world heavyweight champion. Because obviously I feel like that was a big one as well. All this build up for Orton, and then you got beat off Triple H, which is just like, yeah, that was just a terrible ending. I thought Triple H just overcoming Orton like that. Then the main event for WrestleMania 25 is going to be for the World Heavyweight title. Triple H versus the rated R superstar Edge. This is a match that I feel would have been a fantastic WrestleMania main event. I mean, Triple H and Edge, they were both on the roster for a long time, but they really didn't do a ton together. I mean, they had one pay-per-view match, singles pay-per-view match together, and that was at the Great American Bash 2008, but I just feel like this match should have been saved for a major pay-per-view like WrestleMania. Obviously, Triple H was the face at the time. I would say Edge was probably the top heel in the WWE from 2006 to 2009. I mean, I was a big Edge fan at the time. Really enjoyed his work and all that. And then, yeah, for my Rebooking, Edge actually main event a second WrestleMania in a row. So Edge regains the world title at Royal Rumble 2009. Then we get the Elimination Chamber. So I'm going to have to change the No Way Out pay-per-view a little bit with the SmackDown title. So I'm going to put the SmackDown main event on last for the purpose of this. So obviously it's good. So the Chamber does come down to Triple H and Edge. Then of course, obviously, the Big Show's being eliminated at some point. The Big Show comes back into the match, attacks Triple H, so Edge can retain the WWE Championship inside the Elimination Chamber match. And then after that, Triple H challenges Edge for WrestleMania. Then obviously, because I feel like there was some professional heat between the two from what I've heard in the past. I feel like I remember specifically Edge, when Edge was talking about his world title reign, talking about certain people who were saying that I don't think Edge is ready for it. I don't think he'll ever be ready for it. And it's pretty obvious that Edge is talking about Triple H, so Edge can accuse Triple H of trying to hold him back all of his career because he was scared, because he knew Edge could be bigger and better than he ever was. And then Triple H talking shit about Edge. You know what, Edge? I've done it before. I've beaten the best. I've beaten Austin. I've beaten The Rock. I've main evented countless WrestleManias. Why do I need to waste my time holding back an average mid-card champion like you? You're not even in my league. You're not even on the level below me, Edge. They can get in each other's faces and all that sort of thing. They just build a personal rivalry between the two. Now, this could be a great WrestleMania main event, in my opinion. I don't think it'll be as good as Taker and Edge from WrestleMania 24, but it'll certainly be a hell of a lot better than Triple H and Orton's main event. I'm pretty confident in that. So yeah, give them like 18, 20 minutes, maybe 22 minutes. And then I think for this one, got no problem with Triple H beating Edge with a pedigree to win back the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. That would have been absolutely fine with me if Triple H has then gone on to win the WWE title at WrestleMania. So yeah, that is a wrap, guys, for WrestleMania 25. How ironic is that? WrestleMania 25 now finished it on 25 minutes. That's just something ironic there. So the question is, what is going to be the next rebooking? Now I've had a look at some of the suggestions I've got, and the one I've gone with for next time is I'm going to rebook WrestleMania 4, but in my rebooking of WrestleMania 4, there's going to be no tournament. So I am then now going to try and rebook a card without the tournament. And another one I've decided on, but I'm probably going to hold this one back till July, because obviously we're getting close at the anniversary. I'm going to rebook the Invasion pay-per-view July 2001. However, I'm going to do it with a twist. I'm going to rebook that pay-per-view with the roster as it was, because for me, I just feel like a lot of people have rebooked it with all the WWF big guns and all the WCW big guns, and that's just easy in my opinion. I mean, it's easy to rebook the Invasion when you've got all the right people in. I mean, all you really do is just book dream matches and you've got a great card. So I'm going to make the attempt to at some point, I'll probably do it for July, to rebook the Invasion card with the roster as it was. So on the WWF side, no Triple H, no Rock, no Benoit. And of course on the WCW, so no Goldberg, no Sting, no Nash and Hall, no Steiner, no Flair, etc. So that's going to be a challenge I'm looking forward to. And until next time, guys, peace.